Hey all. So, I don't know how this happened, but I seem to be turning into the default Doctor Doom player for my battle group, and we have another war with exactly that. I've said before on stream, and I'll say it again now. If I do get Mutant, there's a decent chance that I'm going to be taking Magneto House of X to rank 5. And when I say get Mutant, I mean from Eternity of Pain, right? There's a decent chance I will be taking Magneto House of X to rank 5, mainly because of how well he combos with Doom and Mr. Fantastic. Like, that trio is just so much of how I handle the war map, and it would make sense to make the quote worst of them stronger, right? But I've been talking over this first fight because there's really not a lot to it. The House of X pre fight removes Mordo's arguably biggest threat, and then Doom's ability to stagger and power steal and otherwise control the fight removes a lot of the rest of the threat. I'm still watching that back, a little confused by how I got hit there because medium heavy is something I do quite a bit with the House of X pre fight, but I don't know. Clearly, I was a little bit slow this time, and I'm just not going to worry about it. I knew that special one was coming, which is why I didn't immediately go for mine, because remember, blocking while I have a buff gives me that degen, so just baited it out, threw the special 2, finished it off. Little bit of damage we didn't need to take, but thankfully that soul barb applied while we did not have buffs on us, and so it wasn't actually doing damage and was just a source of recoil. I took a picture here, at least I think I did. Yeah, there it is. Because I have no idea why Nick is so tall here. Like, they're both medium sized. I don't know why Nick looks like a sentinel next to Magneto there. And then they run in, and you can tell that they're clearly the same size. I'll be forwarding that along to the UI department because that's very, very silly. But it's also not particularly important. Anyway, some of you may have seen this exact fight last war. It's very simple. It mostly relies on power backs to get through the last phase to make sure that you just don't have to deal with Nick's BS. But honestly, it doesn't even need that. As long as you keep pushing him to specials, it's fairly easy with a mutant like this to keep Nick from going fully unblockable. You just kind of have to play around it a little bit, be able to think ahead in multiples of 4 and 8, and it also helps to be able to dex out of the special 1 a little bit early so that you can punish it, because you're way less likely to deal with endless or like back-to-back special 1s that send him unblockable that way. But because we have the power back boosts, we are going to go ahead and use them, make this that much faster. We don't really have to worry about glancing because we're just building power, not trying to do damage with our basics. Once the protection comes back in the second life, that is the most annoying thing about this node. But it's not really a big deal because, as you can see here, we got the bleed in. We do have to worry about the glancing, but we just need to land a couple more of these. So we have to get a little bit fancy here. Just because the normal way of getting openings against him, baiting heavies, is not really working great. But I'm very comfortable against Nick. I'm used to him. I know he's not unblockable. I know he's not going to hit me in the special with a face. And I know how to punish both of his specials. And so eventually, you get the openings you need. You've bypassed most of the second life using the power backs, and it's fine. I think I said last time too, ideally in that fight, you throw a special 2 exactly as protection is getting ready to end, so you get power back from the first hit, and then the second hit knocks them down. That would be ideal. I didn't quite manage to do it this time, but it was still a totally fine fight. So here, Doom versus Wong, very similar to America Chavez and a whole bunch of others. Now, the one thing to watch out for is that when I'm fighting Wong, I often will do exactly that. I will heavy counter his special 1 because I just like the way that that works in the flow of the fight, and it means you don't necessarily have to parry heavy him, which matters a lot on a node like this. But it is very important to note that while he is in his blue spell, doing that can make him go unstoppable and get you smacked in the face. So specifically try to avoid that, play more carefully while he has that up. And otherwise, thanks to the House of X pre-fight, this is a pretty vanilla fight. When Wong starts to get dangerous and gets up to 90, we just parry him, take him down that way. There's nothing else to it. Got the prowess controlled. Yeah, I just stick to heavies here because I know he's going to come in for another one, and there we go. If that hadn't finished him off, I probably would have waited for him to come in. I would have thrown my special 2 or my special 1 because it would have controlled his power and gotten us back on track, but we didn't even need to do that. So now fast forward over to Path 8 in Section 2. We have a Mojo here. This is a fairly popular placement. I've put it before, and that's because when the attacker parries, they gain an armor up. If Mojo is in Death Field, that armor up is going to be gone almost instantly and turn into degen. Pretty simple mechanic, honestly. And you also don't want to use a lot of cosmics to try and win the rich get richer race because Mojo. So, unfortunately, I couldn't fully dex out of that. I kind of got locked into blocking, and so we gave him anti-life field. So this is one of the biggest things to know about Mojo, is just be willing to dex and wait out one of his anti-life fields. And then, even if it completes the prompt, like you saw there, you can safely end a buff without triggering degen as long as the field is gone. So that's what I was going for, and it worked really well for us. We have kept him to 3 prompts. We're power controlling him. That's the other reason that Doom is really good here. Power backs are, once again, very good on a very good champion. And we're just able to spam specials to close it out and get him down before he decides to really be a jerk. Because that's always the risk with Mojo, right? If you don't bring a buff immune, slow playing can be dangerous. Doom's power control, same as against somebody like America Chavez or Wong, makes that slow playing A, less slow, and B, a lot safer. So against Nova here, we fully expect him to be winning the rich get richer race most of the match, just because we're going to keep our staggers up, but he can gain a lot of buffs, so he's probably going to have at least one a lot of the time. Maybe we get lucky and that's not what happens, but we're just making sure, right? We go in with that assumption. We focus on staggers, we focus on power control, and we try not to get him up to 2 bars of power until we are ready to control it. So I had my aura up from the special 1. That made him getting up there safer. And then I used it to help get me to my special 3. And at this point, the fight's over. It doesn't matter what's happening with Rich Get Richer. It doesn't matter what's happening with my staggers. He's pretty much done. But I can go ahead and let him come in here, because then I can steal a little bit more power. And instead of throwing an unblockable special 2, which he'll reduce the damage of and gain a bunch of charges from, I can just push myself back up to another special 3, and we're good to go. So we actually were on top of Rich Get Richer the entire time. But like I said, that's one of those matchups where I like to go in the mindset of I am going to have this disadvantage and I am ready for it. And clearly it worked there. So Sersi is definitely going to be more of the same. She's probably going to gain at least some buffs throughout here, even if we perfectly handle her glancing like we did right there. And that's just something to be ready for. But we're going to try and stay on top of the staggers. We're expecting the buffs from the node whenever she crosses a bar of power, and we are just ready. We are making use of Mystic Dispersion, going straight to our special 3, and we are trying to close this out before she crosses too many bars of power and starts doing real block damage, or her specials get riskier. And I need to parry and stagger. That's alright. I probably should have backed off, not actually punished that, and like I said, parried and staggered, instead of doing what I did, triggering glancing, and then doing this. I'm not really worried because Doom can do this when he does get to his special 3, even through glancing. But the safer way to play that would have been what I said, waiting for her to come in, parrying again, and then throwing the special 2 when it had no chance of glancing because it was on cooldown, and that would have been over that much faster. Now, this Quicksilver fight, Jabari is not the best for. She's not even close to the best for. We had Nick on the field as an option for her. Elsa can work really well here. There are a number of other good ones. But this was more of a coordination thing. The war was going to be significantly easier for our boss killer if I got this down now. And so, rather than try and coordinate something different, I was just like, you know what? I'm sitting on some potions. I don't have the most expensive wars. Even this season, as I've been taking more fights, it's mostly been with very safe champions like Magneto and Doom. I can afford this. I can just go in, get this down, make life easier for someone else, and heal up the block damage. Because we know there's going to be a fair amount of block damage because Quicksilver is annoying. And that's just all there is there. But we're going to be okay. God, is he annoying. So I shouldn't have thrown that special 2 there. What I should have done was a little bit earlier started to bait again, so that then I could have thrown the special 1, gone into the hunt, and done a whole bunch of bleed damage in short succession, even without the big fury. That would have been better. And I would have come out of this fight taking less block damage and less whiplash damage. But it is what it is. We'll get through it. Like I said, I have potions. The flip side to Jabari being relatively flimsy and therefore risky if you mess up is that as long as you come out of the fight the other side, she's not that expensive to heal. So, we at least have that going for us. Would be nice if her block proficiency were a little better. So we go ahead and heal up here. I try and stay on top of my loyalty purchases so that these don't get out of hand. And we move on to the real reason that I have Jabari on the team at all. The only reason I've assigned Jabari all season. I like her a lot. She tends to be a little bit too flimsy for war, but she is perfect for Jessica Jones on Limber. Shang-Chi would be okay. There are other characters who can get this down. Nick Fury has an extremely good chance of nuking this before it's a problem because that's what Nick does. But just watch how brilliantly simple this is with Jabari. She never gets investigation, or at least she never holds on to it for very long. We're doing tons of bleed damage, which is getting around her resistances, such as they are. This is just such a fun fight. It's really nice being able to use a perfect counter, and that is what we're doing here. It is important to practice the heavy counter against Jessica, though. She recovers really quickly, and if you're not careful, you will get smacked in the face by some kind of special, and it can be a real problem. So just note that if you're getting used to her. I am going to go for one more parry here, even through Hard Knock Life, because I really wanted to go into the hunt here and get the Fury from throwing my special. So I was able to do that. I was even able to parry a third time, and it did sting. We finally started to take some damage, but honestly, worth it, because look at all those bleeds. Now, if I'd been a little bit more brave, I probably could have even countered her heavy with my heavy, and I would have had a chance to double some of those bleeds and cash out on the hunt. That would have been the perfect ending to this, but I wasn't 100% sure of the spacing and the timing, and I did not want to throw away a fight that was otherwise going perfectly. So we let it go a little bit longer, and that was my war. Pretty good one. I believe... Yeah, okay, so the war before this one... Sorry, this is what happens when I catch up on these later. The war before this one is when we only died once as an alliance. I believe we gave up 4 this time, including 1 in BG3. And honestly, that's exactly what I hope for. Because, like I said, it's difficult to be 1 death overall consistent all the time, but only dropping 4 the next war is a good sign, and I was proud of us. So, moving right along, we'll see what the rest of the season brings, and until then, thank you so much for watching, and take care.